Toby couldn't shake the tension he witnessed in the jewelry shop. The way Ogechi's demeanor shifted when Chika and Ada arrived intrigued him. She had been confident and composed, yet their presence seemed to weigh on her like an invisible burden. As he left the shop that day, his mind swirled with questions. What was the nature of their relationship? Why did Ogechi look so uneasy? Toby's instincts told him there was more to this story than met the eye. Determined to learn the truth, he contacted his trusted assistant, Femi, to dig into Ogechi's background. Toby provided Femi with every detail he could recall, emphasizing the urgency. Meanwhile, Chika and Ada overheard two women at the shop whispering about Toby's wealth. "Did you see his car? That's no ordinary man," one said. This revelation sent Chika and Ada into a frenzy of ideas. They were determined to gain Toby's favor, no matter the cost. While Femi worked tirelessly, Toby found himself drawn back to the jewelry shop, pretending to browse but hoping to see Ogechi again. Her quiet strength fascinated him, and he couldn't help but admire her resilience, even as her stepsister's presence seemed to overshadow her. Unbeknownst to him, Femi was uncovering a heart-wrenching tale. Ogechi had lost both parents tragically and was now under the care of a stepmother and stepsisters who mistreated her. The report confirmed Toby's suspicions, and anger welled up within him. How could someone so kind and humble endure such cruelty? As Toby read through Femi's findings late into the night, his resolve solidified. He would help Ogechi, but he needed to tread carefully. He couldn't risk alarming her or exposing his plans to her stepfamily. He would let her lead the way while positioning himself as her ally, determined to uncover the full truth about her past. Chika and Ada couldn't stop thinking about Toby after hearing the rumors about his wealth. They began visiting the jewelry shop more often, pretending to help, but really hoping to see Toby again. Whenever he came by, they dressed in their best clothes, putting on fake smiles and acting overly sweet. They wanted to make him believe they were kind and sophisticated women. Toby, however, noticed their behavior and stayed polite but distant. He also couldn't ignore how Ogechi became quieter and kept to herself whenever her stepsisters were around. This made him even more curious about their connection. Ogechi, on the other hand, found it hard to understand why Toby kept coming back. She wondered if he was interested in her, or just enjoyed buying jewelry. Deep down, she liked talking to him, but her fears held her back. Chika and Ada, noticing Toby's growing attention toward Ogechi, became jealous. They started making snide comments about her behind her back and even began plotting ways to make Toby like one of them instead. They bragged loudly in the shop, claiming their mother owned it and pretending they were rich, hoping to impress Toby. Meanwhile, Toby silently observed everything, growing more suspicious of the stepsisters and more protective of Ogechi. One afternoon, while Ogechi was cleaning the study room at home, she noticed something unusual. A letter with her name written on it was lying under the table. She bent down to pick it up, but just as she was about to read it, she heard Neka's voice in the hallway. "I don't want Ogechi finding that letter. It's too dangerous," Neka whispered. Ogechi's heart raced as she tried to make out the conversation. She stood frozen, listening intently. "We must get rid of it before she sees it," Neka continued, her tone serious. The letter, Ogechi realized, was important. It contained information about her father's inheritance, the wealth he had left for her. From the doorway, Ogechi could see her stepsisters, Chika and Ada, quietly joining Neka. They were nodding as Neka spoke about how important it was to keep the inheritance hidden. The letter could change everything, and they didn't want Ogechi to have access to it. It became clear to Ogechi that they had been keeping secrets from her, possibly even hiding what was rightfully hers. Her mind raced with questions. What kind of inheritance did her father leave behind? Why were they so determined to keep it from her? As she stood there, She realized her life had just become more complicated. She had to find out the truth, no matter the cost. But first, she needed to be careful. Her stepmother and stepsisters were not people she could trust, and she had to stay one step ahead. The following day, Ogechi was working at the jewelry shop when Toby came in, looking as polished and composed as ever. He handed her an elegant invitation card, his eyes meeting hers with a soft smile. "I would be honored if you could join me at an event this Saturday. I'm hosting it, and it would mean a lot to have you there," he said, his voice calm but full of sincerity. Ogechi was taken aback. She hadn't expected such an invitation. The thought of attending a fancy event with someone as important as Toby made her nervous, but there was a spark of excitement in her heart. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond, but Toby continued, gently urging her, "Please, I would really love your company." Later that night, after thinking about it all day, Ogechi found herself nervously dialing Toby's number. She wasn't sure if she was ready for a night like that, but something about Toby made her feel safe, even though she barely knew him. When he answered, his voice was warm and encouraging, making her decision a little easier. "I'll come," she said softly, her heart racing as she hung up. But little did she know, the stepsisters were already planning something. Ada had seen her leaving the shop earlier that day with Toby's car pulling up to the front, and jealousy simmered inside her. She couldn't bear the thought of Ogechi getting closer to Toby. Meanwhile, Chika was already plotting to attend the event, hoping to steal the spotlight from Ogechi. They saw Toby's invitation as their chance to be a part of the life they'd always dreamed of, one filled with wealth and luxury. The night of the event arrived, and Ogechi was filled with a mixture of excitement and nerves. She had never been to such a grand party before, especially not one hosted by someone like Toby. As she stepped into the event, she couldn't help but feel out of place, surrounded by wealthy individuals, all dressed in their finest. But Toby was there, waiting for her with a welcoming smile. He greeted her warmly, his presence making her feel more at ease. "I'm so glad you came," he said, guiding her into the room filled with guests. As the evening went on, Ogechi began to relax, enjoying the conversations with Toby and the other guests. She started to feel a sense of belonging, something she hadn't felt in a long time. However, the tension between her stepsisters was evident. Chika and Ada had arrived together, both wearing dazzling outfits, but their eyes were fixed on Toby, who was now paying all his attention to Ogechi. They couldn't hide their jealousy, and it was clear they wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to get closer to Toby. As the night wore on, Ogechi and Toby stepped out onto the balcony for a breath of fresh air. It was then that Toby, sensing something was off, decided to ask Ogechi about her family. "You never talk much about them," he said gently, his eyes searching hers for answers. Ogechi hesitated but finally opened up, telling him about her troubled relationship with her stepmother and stepsisters. She explained how they treated her differently and how they seemed to keep things from her, especially about her father's inheritance. Toby's expression grew serious as he listened, and he promised to help her find the truth. That's when the real shock came. As the night ended, Toby pulled Ogechi aside in a quiet corner. "I've been doing some digging," he said, his voice low. "I found out what your stepmother and stepsisters have been hiding from you. They've been hiding your father's wealth from you, and it's time they paid for what they've done." Ogechi's eyes widened in disbelief. She had no idea what Toby had discovered, but it was clear her life was about to change forever. The next few days were filled with tension for Ogechi. The revelation that Toby had uncovered the truth about her family's deceit weighed heavily on her. She spent hours replaying their conversation in her mind, trying to come to terms with everything she had just learned. Meanwhile, her stepsisters, Chika and Ada, were still oblivious to the fact that Toby had figured them out. They continued with their plan to get closer to him, each day getting bolder in their attempts to catch his attention. But Toby was no longer fooled by their fake smiles and flirty gestures. He had seen enough to know that their intentions were far from genuine. Ogechi sat on her bed that night, clutching the letter she had found in her father's study. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it, revealing words that would forever change her life. The letter was from her late father, detailing his plans for her 18th birthday. He had gifted her a prime piece of land, where she could open a business to fulfill her dreams. But as she read further, tears streamed down her face. Her stepmother, Neka, had taken that land and opened the jewelry shop, disguising it as a gift for Chika and Ada. For years, Ogechi had unknowingly worked in a shop that was rightfully hers, while her stepsisters reaped the rewards of her father's love and foresight. Anger and betrayal surged within her. How could they twist such a precious gift into their own advantage? Determined to uncover the truth, Ogechi began her plan. With Toby's support, she delved into the shop's financial records, unearthing evidence of Neka's manipulation. Toby, seeing Ogechi's pain, suggested they confront Neka at the upcoming expansion event, a lavish affair planned to showcase the shop's success. The day of the event arrived, and the venue was buzzing with excitement. Guests marveled at the jewelry and heaped praises on Chika and Ada, who basked in the attention, portraying themselves as hard-working visionaries. Neka radiated pride, enjoying the accolades as if they were hers to claim. But the mood shifted when Ogechi entered, her head held high, Toby by her side. The guests turned to watch her, their whispers filling the air. Ogechi addressed the crowd with calm confidence. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate this shop's success," she began. "But there's something you all deserve to know. This shop was not built by Chika or Ada. It was a gift from my father to me on my 18th birthday, a gift stolen by those I trusted." She revealed the letter and financial records, exposing how Neka had used her inheritance to fund her stepsister's luxury while she toiled in ignorance. Gasps filled the room as Toby presented the evidence, his voice firm and clear. "The truth is undeniable. Neka and her daughters have committed fraud, and justice will be served." The atmosphere turned hostile as the crowd turned on Neka, their admiration replaced with outrage. Neka's face turned pale as law enforcement arrived, their presence signaling the end of her scheme. "You can't do this to me!" she cried, clutching Chika and Ada, who stood trembling beside her. "Everything I did was for my family." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The officers escorted her out of the shop, her daughters following behind in tears, humiliated and broken. The crowd murmured in disapproval, their disdain for the once-admired family growing louder with every step they took away from the shop. Ogechi stood there and felt the immense weight she had been carrying slowly lift, replaced by a new sense of joy she hadn't felt in so long. Standing in the center of the room, her strength and grace were undeniable. The guests, now fully understanding her plight, applauded her courage and resilience. For the first time, Ogechi felt truly seen, respected, and free to embrace the life she deserved.